Title of my message today is A Good Valley. A Good Valley. I guess I will tie it in a little bit with Uliana's sermon, which is an amazing sermon. Thank you, Uliana. Thank you, Jesus, for giving her that word. And every one of us carries a responsibility, or will carry one in the future, right? And I remember my mom telling me when I was like 12, and I think she got it from a youth pastor that I used to know. And he said that every single person, guy and girl, will make a very important decision between the age of 15 and about 19 for late bloomers, of which side they are on. Which side they're on. And you can kind of pretend and be on one side but play for the other. But in the end, every single person makes a decision between 15 and 18 what side they're really on. What side are you really on today? And the title of my message is A Good Valley, because we're going to talk a little bit about a good valley of, I believe it's called Moab. Don't quote me. But before we get into that, I want to get into a little example. You know, when I was little, my dad would always travel out of country when I was living in Ukraine. It's kind of crazy because he'd disappear for like 6 months once every 2 years. And he'd go to like Germany or Moscow a couple times, I remember. He'd like drive through Poland. And he would always go to make extra money. And I would always think, I didn't understand. I'm like, Dad, why are you always going? Life is so good. We have it all. Like, why are you always going? Little did I know that because my dad goes that is why our life is so good. Because my dad would always come back with money. My dad would always come back. One time he came back on a brand new car from Germany. I thought it was kind of cool. I was really sad when he was selling it. I still remember begging him not to sell it, but he needed the money. He brought like a full trunk of candy. I remember he brought me a VHS. Those of you that don't know what that is, those are movies. Yeah, the 90s kids watch those. Some of y'all are too young to remember VHS. You don't even know what that stands for. That's cool. That's all right. And he'd bring me books and other things. And I thought life was so great. And I would ask my dad, I'm like, why are you leaving? I don't understand. But as an adult now, as a grown-up, I understand that each one of us carries a certain weight. Each one of us makes decisions. And it's so important for us to make the right decisions. And you know, maybe our kids won't understand, or maybe people here don't understand when leaders make decisions, but it is for your good. And God makes decisions for your good as well. We sometimes don't understand, but they're for good. Here is what God said to Cain before he killed Abel. It's written in Genesis 4:7. And God is talking to him about his sacrifice that was not accepted because he got really bitter. He's saying, you will be accepted if you do what is right. But if you refuse to do what is right, then watch out. Does it say like that over there? Yep. Sin is crouching at the door, eager to control you, but you must subdue it or be its master. And be its master. You must subdue it and be its master. What he's saying is a sin is at the door. A sin is about to, what do we use a door for? To enter, right? So a sin is about to enter. God is pointing at his thoughts and he's saying, you're having bad thoughts. You're having bad thoughts. That's not good. He's saying that sin comes from thinking bad thoughts. If we read James 1:15, James 1:15, then desire, James 1:15, then desire, when it is conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. So what God is essentially is saying is, you've got bad roots, boy. You got bad roots, and you need to chop them. You need to cut them off. See, your thoughts that you have are those roots. And if we don't cut off sin at our root, it'll conceive and give birth to sin. And sin brings us into death. So what I want to say first of all is we need to set our thoughts straight. We need to set our thoughts on the things that are of God. We need to set our thoughts on the things that are above. Not on these earthly things, not on distractions, right, ladies and gentlemen? But we got to set our things on God. Control your peeps. I'm going to call them out. Going forward, most of us are living with our parents, right? Most of us, not all of us. And everything is good, right? Going back to my example with my dad. Life is good when you're living with your parents. You don't even know how good it is. All right, your parents pay your bills, right? Is there anybody that lives with their parents but is still paying their rent? No? Oh, all right, I got somebody. That's cool. That's right. But most of you have your bills taken care of, right? You don't really pay your parents' rent. That's expensive. And they take care of your health, whether it's physical or mental or social. They push you out to go hang out with your friends, or sometimes they close you off if they ain't good friends. They provide for you. They feed you, right? They give you a room to live in, I hope. I don't know. And they make sure you're on the right path. Sometimes that means they got to say no. Sometimes they got to restrict you from things, and that's okay. But you got to be obedient to your parents', we'll stop there. To their voice. You got to be obedient to your parents. And we don't even know how good we have it, those of us that do have parents. I know some might have been unfortunate to lose one or both. I don't know. But we don't even know how good we have it, because I've been to some orphanages in Ukraine back when I was young. And it is so sad to see a kid beg for 5 cents to buy candy, and they really have nobody to give it to them. Like, I'm not trying to tear jerk or anything, but we don't even know how good we have it. We have it real good. Our parents provide for us. There's somebody that loves us. There's somebody that's praying for us and rooting for our success. And it is so important for us, while we live with our parents, right, dear youth, to kind of be obedient and fall under their vision and go where your parents are leading you until the time comes when you got to make your own decision. Until the time comes where you got to spread out your wings and take off from the family nest, and some of us have. That's awesome. But until then, I want to call all of you to be obedient to your parents. We're going to use an example. And we're going to use an example from Genesis chapter 12. Back at Genesis. Genesis 12, verse 1. The Lord said to Abram. You know who Abram is? That's Abraham before God renamed him to Abraham. He was Abram. So God said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you. So Abram departed as the Lord had instructed, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran. In this example, we see that Abraham was really old to leave his parents, but we're not going to use Abraham as the kid. We're going to use Lot as the child, and we'll use Abraham as the father. We see that Abraham was called, just like your parents are called, right? Your parents were called into the United States. We really didn't have a say. Your parents were coming to church Most of us really didn't have a say, but a time comes when you're going to start having a say. A time comes when you're going to decide where you want to live, who you want to live with, who you want to serve, how you're going to serve. A time will come. And I want us to be obedient to our parents while we're with our parents, but when a time comes, I want us to be extremely, extremely wise and to know our whys and to understand where we're trying to go and why we're going there. Because, and we're going to read a little bit further here. See, Lot went under Abram's vision. And a little bit of time passed. And just like some of us, right? Some left because of marriage, some left because of college, some left because of other things. Kids leave their parents' house. And a time came when Abram and Lot could no longer sustain being in one household. Just the next chapter, let's go to chapter 13. We were reading chapter 12, now chapter 13, verse 1. I'm going to read first 13 verses, bear with me. So Abram left Egypt and traveled north into Negev, along with his wife and Lot and all they owned. Abram was very rich in livestock, silver, and gold. From the Negev, they continued traveling by stages toward Bethel, and they pitched their tents between Bethel and Ai, where they had camped before. That's just a little bit northwest of the Dead Sea. This was the same place where Abram had built the altar, and there he worshipped the Lord again. Lot, who was traveling with Abram, had also become very wealthy with flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, and many tents. But the land could not support both Abram and Lot, with all their livestock and herds living so close together. So disputes broke out between the herdsmen of Abram and Lot. At the time, Canaanites and Perizzites were also living in the land. Finally, Abram said to Lot, "Let's not allow this conflict to come between us or our herdsmen. After all, we are close relatives. The whole countryside is open to you. Take your choice of any section of the land you want, and we will separate. If you want the land to the left, then I'll take the land on the right. If you prefer the land on the right, then I'll go to the left." Lot took a long look at the fertile plains of the Jordan Valley in the direction of Zoar. The whole area was very well watered everywhere, like the garden of the Lord or the beautiful land of Egypt. This was before Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Lot chose for himself the whole Jordan Valley to the east of them. He went there with his flocks and servants and parted company with his uncle Abram. So Abram settled in the land of Canaan, and Lot moved his tents to the place near Sodom and settled along the cities of the plain. But the people of the area were extremely wicked and constantly sinned against the Lord. See, as a young man and women, we take a long look on people's stories, on social media, on YouTube, just with our friends. We take a long look and we see stuff we like. We see stuff we want. We're like, man, I want that too. Man, that looks so good. Man, that looks so nice. Man, I wish I had that. You know, some friends look really good to us that maybe shouldn't be our friends. Or some relationship, or some jobs that look profitable and in the end they hinder our ministry, right? Or they could hinder our ministry. They won't allow us to come or to do our ministry. And some decisions that may look harmless at first, or may even look amazing, but in the end, they harm us. As young people, we look. And we take a long look, like Lot was taking a long look, and he said, man, that land looks so nice. And you know that he went to the land in the valley of Jordan, where the 5 cities that got destroyed were, among them Sodom and Gomorrah. And Maybe your parents said no to you in the past. They tried to protect you, and maybe you didn't understand, but you listened, and you see this blessing. You see Lot, when he left the land of Ur with Abram, we just read, he was so blessed. He had tents, he had cattle, he had herds, he had herdsmen, he had everything he wanted. While you live with your parents, you might have everything you ever need, but when the time comes for you to separate and make a decision, don't look at what is desirable but wrong. Don't look at the sin. Don't look at what the people in this world do. Don't look at those valleys that are so good looking, but the wicked people live there. Don't chase your wicked friends, but take on rather a place where God resides. Let's look at Abraham, or at that time Abram. I may call him Abram or Abraham, but that's the same person, just so you guys are up to speed. Did you guys notice how Abraham picked the direction he was going to go in? He said, Lot, if you go right, I will go left. If you go left, I will go right. You tell me where you want to go, and I'll go the other way. You see, to Abraham or Abram, it doesn't matter which way to go. It doesn't matter what looks cool. It doesn't matter what looks popular. It doesn't matter what looks profitable. To Abram, the only thing that matters is that God is with him. Because God took him out of the land, and God said, all of this land I will give to you. Abraham completely trusts God, and he doesn't care wherever that means to go. He's not chasing just the blessing. He's chasing God with all of his heart. Let's go further. You guys are big girls and boys. And I feel like all of us have tremendous potential. All of us know exactly what to do, and it's like sometimes we purposely sabotage ourselves just because. And I don't want that to be us. I don't want us to pick something just because it's cooler. I don't want us to chase our bad friends or bad relationships or terrible job schedules. I want us to serve God with all of our heart. Don't let sin lay at your door. Don't let anything hinder your ministry and your relationship with God. Regularly pray, regularly read scripture, attend the services, do the ministry, serve God with all of your heart. And it does not matter where God takes you, just trust him. See, God has taken Uliana into UW. Awesome. She trusted him. Where has God taken you? Where are your talents laying? Are you digging them into the ground? Are you just betting on a valley that is very, very good looking? Because I'll tell you what's going to happen to Lot when he picks just the valley but not God. When he picks the profitable valley, but Lot forgets to pick God that would walk with him. You know what happens to Lot? Let's go to the following chapter, 14. See how quickly everything develops? Genesis 14:11. A war breaks out in that region, and this is what it says. Then the victorious invaders, and those were people from around Babylon, the victorious invaders then plundered Sodom and Gomorrah and headed for home, taking with them all the spoils of war and the food supplies. They also captured Lot, Abram's nephew, in case you forgot, who lived in Sodom, and carried off everything he owned. Ain't this wild? Hey, didn't we just read in Genesis 13:11 that he was moving into the valley? And all of a sudden in Genesis 14:12, we're reading that he lives inside Sodom. Do you see how enticing and how dangerous it is to follow sin, or to follow riches, or to follow your own desires instead of God? He moved into the valley, and lo and behold, a chapter later, he already lives in a city that is bound for destruction. And not only is he living in a city, he suffers the fate of the city. He gets captured and taken into captivity. And praise be to God that Abram was there to save him. Abram took a party of men, went and rescued him. And you would think that this guy would learn. Sometimes God saves us. Sometimes God helps us. Sometimes God pulls us out of a situation of our own making. Sometimes we just screw up completely. And you would think we would learn, that we would not just jump right back in both feet where we were. You would think we'd say, this is a sinful city. These are sinful people, and though this valley is attractive, if I'm with God, God will bless me anywhere. You'd think he'd just leave. No, the man continues to live in Sodom. And we read more about it further on, and we're about to. Let's read more about it. Genesis 19, verse 12. Genesis 19:12. Meanwhile, the angels questioned Lot. "Do you have any other relatives here in the city?" they asked. "Get them out of this place, your sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone else, for we are about to destroy this city completely. The outcry against this place is so great, it has reached the Lord, and he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot rushed out to tell his daughters' fiancés, "Quick! Get out of the city. The Lord is about to destroy it." But the young man thought he was only joking. At dawn the next morning, the angels became insistent. "Hurry," they said to Lot. "Take your wife and 2 daughters who are here. Get out right now, or you will be swept away in the destruction of the city." When Lot still hesitated, the angel seized his hand and the hands of his wife and 2 daughters and rushed them to safety outside the city, for the Lord was merciful. When they were safely out of the city, one of the angels ordered, "Run for your lives, and don't look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the mountains, or you will be swept away." Here we see Lot, who was just saved from one trouble, falling into another because Lot continues to pursue the good valley instead of the Lord. Verse 24, "Then the Lord rained down fire and burning sulfur from the sky on Sodom and Gomorrah. He utterly destroyed them along with the other cities and villages of the plain, wiping out all the people and every bit of vegetation. But Lot's wife looked back as she was following behind him, and she turned into a pillar of salt." If I could have somebody on keys. First time Lot has lost everything. Everything was taken into captivity. And then God had mercy on him and brought everything back. Everything back. Lot didn't lose a single thing. Sometimes we create problems in our lives. Sometimes we disobey God and we fall into problems and tribulations, and we're not doing good and everything's falling apart, and then God kind of spares us and God just gives us everything back. And he says, serve me earnestly, serve me with good intentions, serve me with all of your heart. But then we go right back to the same things we were doing, and this next time, maybe you just won't walk out with everything you already had. Because Lot sure doesn't. Lot loses the sons-in-law because they thought he was just kidding. What a terrible way to go. And Lot loses his wife. Because maybe some of us, we just want to look back. Maybe we're doing good now. Maybe we're safe, we're repentant. But we keep looking back at our friends, and we keep looking back at the things that were bothering and distracting us. And we're like, man, I sure miss those old times. I sure miss the way it made me feel. No. Let me tell you something. There is no such thing as a good valley if God isn't there with you. Can you tell me what the valley of Jordan looks like today? What Sodom and Gomorrah looks like today? What is the sea right next to it called? The Dead Sea. What is spread all across the land in that region? Sulfur and salt. Can anything grow? The most pleasant valley that Lot could pick in those times is now a ruin because no good people were there. Let me tell you something. No matter how good something looks in your life, no matter how good the pursuit of the job, or the boyfriend, the girlfriend, no matter how good the friends are and how far back you go, man, we go back so far, we were together, and it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how good it looks. If God isn't walking there with you in your relationships, if God isn't walking beside you and blessing you in those valleys, in those mountains, it will not work. You can pick the best valleys, the best jobs, best boyfriends, girlfriends, the best friends. But if God is not in the middle of your relationship, it won't work. If I could have you all stand. The lesson today is very simple. While you're with your parents, obey your parents and submit to their vision. But when they let you go, pick a godly direction. Choose to go with God and not with your eyes, not with your feelings. Choose to go with God's Spirit, and may He guide you.